just fits down a series of switchbacks. We came to the flat terrace we're going to walk up to. Connie has asked me to walk slowly up to.
Very slow. You are like a mountain lion.
And we saw there are cellar holes. There's all kinds of cultural material up there. We had no idea what it was. And so we came down, followed this trail down, and we found this area right here, and we were eating lunch. And while we're eating lunch, one of my students just sort of wandering up and down the road. And I always tell people this. It's 18 years ago. There's not a lot I remember from 18 years ago, but I remember he was eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. That's what he ate every single day. And he was standing right over there in the middle of the road, looking at that boulder and saying, "Hey, Kenny, is this important? We're talking about this site we just discovered, you know. Oh, is it slaves or is it Native American? What is it? Kenny, I think this is important." I walked over to it. As you can see on this side.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. It's great when you discover something and you're like, oh, we must have found it. Nobody else has ever seen it.
There's a plaque on the boulder.
Oh, what are these funny things?
The plaque says, this portion of People's Forest was given by the Connecticut Daughters of the American Revolution, 1929. And then it says, here this spot was the site of an Indian village. I said to him, I said, Bill, that could be important. That's when I went into town and I started asking people. I said, yeah, we're up in Peoples and we're seeing these cellar holes and there's a plaque. And I go, oh yeah, that's the lighthouse. And this is Barkhamsted. We're 60 miles from the ocean. What do you mean? No, it's just what it's called. It's called the lighthouse. Just be careful.
Careful.
Car coming. It's just called the lighthouse. So why is it called the lighthouse? Well, just read this book. And that's when I was handed a copy of The Legend of Barkhamsted Lighthouse by Lewis Mills. I recognize the name because Mills has the high school in Burlington, Connecticut, is Lewis Mills High School. And he was a school superintendent and a teacher and a historian. He wrote a very well-received book in the early 1960s, Connecticut history. This was in 1951 or 52 that he self-published The Legend of Barkhamsted Lighthouse. I read it. This is a fabulous story. There's all kinds of elements of that would be of interest in an archaeological, anthropological piece of research. And we have been coming back here ever since. So, now, Connie, why don't you tell people the problem with the sign?
Okay. There's a gentleman that lives down the road here. His name is Doug Roberts. His family originally owned the mountain. They dedicated the mountain to the People's State Forest. They did not own the mountain to dedicate it. So every time Doug would come to listen to Kenny, he would be in the back with me going, but that ain't the right one. That ain't the right story. So he gave me the deed. I have a copy of the deed. So I told Kenny, I said, you know, Doug's getting a little upset about you saying they dedicated this property when Doug's family did. So Doug Robert, his family is the one that did end up giving it to the People's State Forest.
My understanding is that the Roberts family gave it to the state. The state turned around and sort of handed it to the DAR and said, you give it to us. They said, okay. And that's why they put the plaque, and the plaque says that. Mr. Roberts is a town historian in Riverton, very knowledgeable guy. Mr. Roberts for years told me, you know, my family has baskets made by these people. I've got census records that indicate the occupation of the people who lived here, basket makers.
All the pictures are on my Facebook group of the Barkhamsted baskets.
For years, he would promise to take me to see the baskets, never did. 2009, we had a field crew up here. One of the people in the field crew is Lacey Benson. Very beautiful young woman. Doug came up to visit us while we were digging. He was there. He loved Lacey. Fell in love with her. I told Lacey, tell him you like baskets. She told Doug she liked baskets. Doug said, would you like to see my baskets?
It's a good thing he ain't on the internet because this is going on the internet.
Shut up. anyway, so I just sort of said, "Oh, Lacey, you gonna go see Mr. Roberts' baskets? Can I see them too?"
No.
And Mr. Roberts was there and said, "I guess." So I went up and saw the baskets. They really are amazing. If you look at the Turnbull book on Native American baskets, if you look at the section under Narragansett, it's like he took pictures of the baskets that Mr. Roberts has. A couple of dozen of them. I was able to photo document all of them with scale and everything else. Our hope was that he's got to be in his late 80s at this point.
I think he's almost in his 90s.
Our hope was that he would donate it to the Barkhamsted Historical Society or to the state archaeologist, and I guess that's at this point is not going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with the baskets. A couple of years ago, I was giving a lecture at the Institute about this very thing, and Lacey was in the audience, and I made the joke about it, and Lacey laughed, and I said, "Look, you're archaeologists, you use whatever resources you have to get what you want." And Lacey laughed about it. And then at the end, I asked people if there were any questions. The guy sitting next to Lacey, older man, raises his hand and says, "Yeah, I've got some old baskets in my basement, and if Lacey would like to come over and look at them, that would be good."